Dum, 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 dum. I'm just going to start. Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the Films Not Movies podcast with me, Aaron.
And me, Charlotte.
This week we'll be looking at Prevenge, a new horror film written and directed by Alice Lowe. And we'll also be looking back on 10 Cloverfield Lane, which came out last year, or certainly at cinemas last year. And also, as a little bonus bit of content, we'll be looking at this year's BAFTA winners.
That's right.
Excellent. Okay, so without any further ado,
Prevenge. So Alice Lowe, not only did she direct and write it, but it stars herself as well.
Yes, Alice Lowe, what will we have seen her in? Sightseers, directed by Ben Wheatley, which came out 3 or 4 years ago. And she's also been in a lot of British TV type stuff, hasn't she? She was in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Oh, yeah.
So that might give you a bit of a hint of the type of thing that's going on. In fact, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is probably not a bad place.
Yeah, or Sightseers, really.
Sightseers,
we are big fans of Sightseers, so we were very excited after seeing the trailer for this. So Alice Lowe plays Widow Ruth, who's 7 months pregnant when, believing herself to be guided by her unborn baby, she embarks on a homicidal rampage, dispatching anyone who stands in her way.
Yes, I thought that was a great little blurb about the film. It sums it up better than I could have written it myself. And that is basically what the film is about. She is recently widowed, and she thinks she can hear, or maybe can hear, the voice of the baby in her belly as she is 7 months pregnant saying, kill these fools. And it is a hilarious little scary baby voice coming from within. And yes, it's a horror film, but it's what people call a black comedy, and it's very British in its black comedy elements.
It's genuinely funny and genuinely bloody and gory.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's scary.
No.
Like it, so.
But you are sort of on the edge of your seat going, oh, like a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's some
quite squeamish bits as well.
There are some very gross out, squeamish bits of comedy horror because even though they're all such flashes of something, it never lingers on anything quite long enough, but it's always enough for you to go, oh, I can't believe they've done that, or just, oh, that was horrible. But then it's usually followed up by another joke, and especially how un-Hollywood everyone who dies in it dies. They're all just a bit like, oh, I've been stabbed, I've got parts of me falling off now. Thanks for that. And really great.
Although you're sort of simultaneously cringing and hiding behind your cushion, you are sort of laughing at the same time, but also you're rooting for her.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
I did find myself going, go on, get him! Don't let him get away, get him! Yeah. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm completely on her side. She's
It's the way they frame it with her being a widow. It does almost seem to justify what she's doing and makes her, because she's so funny, quite a likeable character, especially some of the people she targets seem quite
truly hideous characters. I mean, there's a lot of, I guess you'd call them cameos, but they're all sort of comics, aren't they, or kind of famous people playing a lot of people.
Well, as I said at the time, it's a menagerie of people who you say, oh, it's that guy, but never know their name.
That guy off, what's the thing?
It's that guy, so.
But a lot of British comedians or people who play roles in British funny TV series.
Yeah, so to name some of them, there's Gemma Whelan, Kate Dickie, Joe Hartley, Tom Davis, Cavan Novak, Dan Renton Skinner. I didn't know any of those names beforehand, but they're all faces that you recognise.
Definitely.
They all play a variety of characters.
Yeah, and Kate Dickie actually was in The Witch, wasn't she, that we reviewed just the other week?
That we talked about last time, so there's a bit of a British theme.
Definitely.
Running through, and I think this film is really low budget, and you can tell, but it doesn't affect it, if anything. Yeah. There's nothing more they could have done with this story and a higher budget, really.
No. There's times when I first started watching, I was like, oh, that's blurry. Oh, that's out of focus. But only for the first few minutes, because then you realise it's kind of identifying with her and in this sort of woozy state being overtaken by this alien being in her belly that's telling her what to do, and she's feeling disorientated the whole time. Yeah. Because, I've never been pregnant, but the amount of information that you are bombarded with and people telling you what to do, books...
Baby knows best.
Knows best. Hypnosis CDs, all the kind of river of information that you're supposed to take on. And you must just feel completely lost and don't know who to turn to. So I can understand, if you're hearing this voice from within you, You're probably going to listen to that one over all the self-help books and busybody midwives and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it frames it really interestingly, where she's in complete belief that she is being controlled by the voice of her baby, but a large part of me was thinking, is she just using this to justify wanting to go on a rampage? And I enjoyed that reading of it more, of her just being like, well, I'll just blame the baby. I'm just going to stab him in the head. Here, that's the end of him. And I think that it doesn't really explore that as an option. It was in the back of my mind all the way through, and I thought that was really made it more humorous and more, not more terrifying actually, because it wasn't really terrifying, but it definitely made it more humorous for me.
Yeah, and she's a fragile character, and she finds herself in this situation, and there's obviously this kind of idea of there's an alien thing in your belly, but then there's a few scenes, like there's a scene where she's walking down the street and it's filled with drunken people, as city centres are on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and you feel, if you're not in that same state as everybody else, you just feel completely isolated, like you're in a different place. And it is a bit like pregnancy is this different place, you're in a different state, like when everyone around you is drunk or on drugs and you're not, and you're just like, I'm not on the same plane as you. And she's very much in that me and this baby, we're on our own, and it's us versus them kind of thing. I thought that was quite interesting.
Well, that is interesting. You definitely, especially from the scene where she's walking through the streets, all the drunk people. But I think for someone who's pregnant, she takes an awful lot of risks whilst being pregnant. Some of the situation, well, I mean, any of the situations that she finds herself in, but in particular, she's quite just carefree about the whole situation, which is odd. But
I don't think she intentionally, I suppose risky situations here, but she doesn't really know where they're going to go.
No,
and it's like true. She has faith in the power of the baby and her.
I think there's some really funny, we mentioned the cameos of people, I think there's some really funny other little characters though. Joe Hartley, who plays the midwife, gets just that kind of insincere sincerity.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, they sound so caring, but you just don't believe it for a second. She gets that tone really well, and so she has every once in a while has these meetings with this midwife, and you can just tell that the main character Ruth is just can't be doing with her, but at the same time she isn't doing anything wrong.
No.
It's just the type of person who would infuriate me, someone being that insincere.
Yeah.
So that was a great little one, and just all the people she essentially runs into are really just
some really repulsive characters.
Yeah, some of them are really nice, some of them really repulsive, some of them, they've just all got funny little personality traits that by the time she's done killing them, you're pretty much on board with it.
Yeah, you're fully on board
with all of them. Even the one that really stuck out as being a nice guy, by the time she's killed him, you're like, yeah, get him dead.
Yeah, and I thought the baby voice, I mean, the whole scenario, really, obviously it's meant to be funny and it is hilarious. She is hilarious. The baby is hilarious, and all these ridiculous characters are hilarious. But the sort of squeaky voice coming from her belly, it could have just been naff, really. It could have just not worked. It could have been such a ridiculous idea that you didn't even entertain it for a second. But it wasn't like that, really. It was just, it was funny in the way that it was supposed to be, rather than, oh my God, is this really what's happening kind of a way.
Yeah,
so
well,
I thought that was...
Yeah, it definitely treaded the line of potentially being annoying, but I think because they made the lines that the baby says so funny...
Yeah, and not overdone either.
Doesn't use the voiceover for the baby that much, not always in her head, but when it does, there's certain points where it just clicks into action when you least expect it. Really, really funny.
I mean, obviously it's her tour de force. She's written it, she's directed it, she stars in it. But obviously it's a brave story, but I thought she was very brave, really, in how she, laid herself bare, really, in terms of how she showed herself. This is not a vanity project in terms of I'm going to make myself a movie star. It's very much the natural expressions on her face. She was very real and I can really identify with a lot of the emotions she's feeling, not to do with pregnancy per se, but just the way that people tell women what to do, and half the time you just feel like telling them where to go and more. And there was something very real about that I liked.
And it's extra real because she was genuinely 7 months pregnant while filming the role of someone who was 7 months pregnant.
Amazing.
So I think that probably helped her get in the mindset. I imagine it being a lot more of a struggle because you're having to put up with something that is very abnormal to your normal day-to-day life.
That's clearly the inspiration. Everybody telling you what to do and laying your hand on the bump and all that. I mean, I can completely understand that you want to completely flip out and go the other way. We've had enough of pastel-coloured picture books and...
Yeah, so I think this film is in a good string of funny, dark comedies that have come out over the last few years, and I think that's something that British filmmakers seem to have a really good knack for.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about Ben Wheatley before as a good example, and the type of things that you see people like Richard Ayoade in and stuff.
Yeah.
They've definitely got that market cornered, so it's good to see it expanding, seeing Alice Lowe put herself as a director, not just a star of these things. It's another person who's got this great talent, so just really good to see.
Yeah, I haven't really got anything more to add, really, other than to say that I thought I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I did feel kind of emotionally moved by it, as well as laughing and hiding behind the cushion.
Yeah, because I'm
cringing.
I heard it being mentioned as something like a laugh out loud comedy, and the funny bit, I can't remember the last time I was in a cinema. Probably helped that we were in such a small, intimate cinema. But I can't remember the last time I was in a cinema. People were properly honking with laughter at some point.
And sort of other reactions as well, not just laughing. You'd hear them gasping or going, oh!
Yeah, exactly. And I really, really enjoyed that because it wasn't distracting because everyone was doing it at unison exactly when it should have happened. And I think that was really good. But my point was to describe it as a full laugh-out-loud comedy isn't really the right thing. Obviously, it's dark. But as you said, there's sadness in it. There's a few moments where you do start thinking, is this going to take quite a dark turn, not in a gore or horror type way, but in an emotional thing? Is this whole thing going to twist on its head? And you do kind of have that in the back of your...
I was really terrified at the end. Really sort of feels like things were coming to a head and I literally didn't know what direction things were going to go in.
Yeah, and I think balancing on that line gives it an extra edge over something that you would just think, oh, that was a good laugh.
Yeah.
It stays in the mind a bit longer, I think.
Completely.
Okay, so that's enough on this one.
Scores on the doors?
Scores on the doors. For me, it's 3. I'm giving everything 3 at the moment. I honestly will stop giving things 3. I think because it was... On another day, I might have given it 4 because I did really enjoy it. And I probably enjoy it more than some films that I've given 4 because it's definitely got replay value, I think, apart from a couple of scenes that I will definitely hide away from. I think nearly being sick. Well, not nearly being sick, but feeling queasy for understandable reasons when you watch it. I think 3 overall, though, is a decent assessment of what I took from it, but 3 in this situation is really good. It's got its limitations, which stops it being an absolute classic, but for the place that it has and some kind of tone and feel to something like Sightseers and other things like that, I think 3 is a good place for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give it a 4.
Yay! I'm glad we haven't done it exactly the same.
Because I just felt it was such an original viewpoint for telling a story. You know, I mean, how many pregnant women are even the lead characters of any film?
None I've ever seen, I don't think.
Juno, I suppose. This is obviously taking
Juno.
it much...
No ukuleles.
Much further, you know, a completely different point of view. In some ways, so realistic to how you feel in certain situations. In some ways, completely insane. But I just felt moved by it in all the different ways, all the way through, you know, really sort of visceral emotions throughout, which is obviously what she's going through. Yeah, so I'm going to give it a 4.
Excellent. And shout out to Tom Davis, who plays the character DJ Dan, for being the most repugnant pig man ever.
Dude.
But it made such a great character. I thought it had to be worth a mention.
Just to be able to make an audience, a cinema, just simultaneously just go, just from his performance, just from how horrid he is.
Yeah.
Bloody
Excellent.
hell.
All right. So now we're going to talk about 10 Cloverfield Lane. Kind of a spiritual / same universe as Cloverfield, which came out, 2008, which was the monster film directed by J.J. Abrams. And this one's directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who I'm unfamiliar with other things that he's done, and stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Michelle, John Goodman as Howard, and John Gallagher Jr. as Emmett. And when we say it stars those 3, they're basically the only people in it.
Yeah, very small scale film.
So a quick synopsis is, after getting into a car accident, a woman, Michelle, is held in a shelter with 2 men who claim the outside world is affected by a widespread chemical attack.
Yeah, so the main character, Michelle, sort of, at the very beginning, she's driving along, and then next thing you know, she's waking up in this terrifying underground bomb shelter, horrible concrete room, chained up, and thinking, what the hell is going on? How do I get out of here?
And that sets it up for you thinking, oh no,
this is going to be a horror fest. It's going to be like Saw or something.
Yeah, well, something like the film that Room could have been, and I'm glad that it wasn't. Yes, that was how I was starting to feel like this might have been.
Yeah, very much.
And that worried me, because then that's kind of...
You don't want a grisly fest with no
Well, I just don't like them when they kind of turn into these, when it's just a bit horrible for horrible's sake.
Yeah.
But it becomes very apparent very quickly, I think, that it's not a film quite like that, because of the interaction that she has with John Goodman's character Howard from the off, where they set it up like it is like that. He comes into the room looming large, and you just think, oh my god, what's this poor woman going to do? And then he's not nice, but he's just weird, hard to read.
Yeah.
I have no idea what his intentions are.
Yeah. So basically the character Howard, played by John Goodman, he owns this bomb shelter. He's rescued her, or he tells her he's rescued her because there's been this chemicals in the atmosphere and it's not safe and everybody's dying and you can't basically stay up there. There's one other guy in there who says that he's begged to be let in so that he could survive also, and the three of them are in there. And she's obviously not convinced by this story. She's been chained up. She's like, how do I know this is real? I want to get out of here. And then the vast majority of the film, you kind of go on this journey with her, thinking what she's thinking, initially thinking he's a horrible guy who's kidnapped me, and then flipping and flopping all the way as to, no, he's a good guy, he's looking out for me, and just not being sure the whole time, and just feeling what she's feeling, all her suspicions, or, when she feels safe, you feel safe. And I have to say, Howard is perfectly cast, as John Goodman is perfectly cast as Howard, because, you might know him as the lovable guy from Roseanne, but he can also have quite a sinister, terrifying, serious, creepy look to him. But he can also do the jolly, kind of lovable guy. So you are really constantly wondering, what is he all about? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy?
Is he somewhere in between? Is he...
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's basically what they call them, preppers, don't they? He's prepared this whole thing believing himself that one day everything will go wrong, and when it does, he'll be prepared and he'll have the last laugh. Yeah. That's the situation he's in. So this place is weirdly homely, which makes it creepier for me. It's kind of like, is he doing this to just make some weird fantasy world for himself?
Yeah.
Is that why they're there? Or is he so well prepared that he's just made it as nice as possible for the people who are stuck down there? It's just, as you were saying, you do flip-flop all the way through. You find yourself very much in her mindset of just... And I think it frames it really well, because it's nearly always her in a scene. Maybe one or two, but very few scenes without her in it. So you just always see things near enough from her point of view. And just really agonising.
Sometimes it's like, this is proof now. Oh, this is... But then you're like, but is it proof? Has he done this?
Is this a setup? Is this something else? Is this any of this believable? And then you think, oh no, she's definitely safer down there. And then something weird happens. You definitely feel the...
Now, I remember saying when we reviewed The Witch that I thought the ending was going to go one of two ways, and it went another way. Obviously, we're not going to give any spoilers, but, I thought the ending was going to be A or B, and it ended up being Z.
Yes, which I think is great, and I think the least we talk about that, the better. But I really enjoyed the way the film developed, and I think that made it a much stronger film.
Completely.
It doing something fresh and new and completely unpredictable, but also it wasn't unpredictable in a way that made you think, oh, what the hell is this? Yeah. It wasn't like it was all a dream or anything like that. Yeah. It was well crafted from that point of view, and I think it's interesting that this was a screenplay or a story anyway that existed not in the Cloverfield universe. I think it was called The Cellar or something originally, and it was written and then it got into the hands of the producers who made Cloverfield, J.J. Abrams. He's not directed this one, but I think he's still a producer on it. And so it's set in the same world, universe. I don't know how you describe it. I hate saying cinematic universe because that's just garbage Hollywood speak. As Cloverfield, but isn't related at all, apart from because there's something he's saying there's something else going on above ground. That's the first thing that happens in the film is you worrying about things. You see the name Cloverfield on it, you think, what's the link? And it's pretty interestingly laid out. And I also like the idea that they've mentioned that they would like to do other films like this with the Cloverfield name on it, but it might be another step in a different direction. What I mean is, by it having Cloverfield on, it's not Cloverfield 2. No. Attack of the Cloverfields. It's interesting. I'm probably would have preferred it as a completely standalone film, but I can also understand why they do it.
Yeah, you don't need to have seen one to enjoy the other
not at all. No.
Completely standalone,
to be honest, I think this is the better film of the two Cloverfield names for me.
Definitely the most interesting, more unusual. So Cloverfield.
Anything else?
10 Cloverfield Lane. No, we don't have anything else to say really.
Cool, yeah. So another short-ish review, but another one we can't say too much about because I think it is one that is worth going out and seeking. It's not on Netflix, but it probably will be before we know it, and it's readily available. So
yeah, go and see it with an open mind and no preconceptions, and just enjoy it.
Cool. So what do you think out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 3.
A 3, yeah.
It's good.
I promise I'll stop giving things 3 because I'm giving it 3 as well. It's good, but I always think how much will these films stay with me? And I think with both of these today, they were thoroughly enjoyable. Sit down and watch it. I'm probably more likely to watch Prevenge again rather than this one.
I really think Prevenge will stay with me. I think actually Cloverfield Lane will stay with me, but not as much. I don't think it's got that much rewatch value, whereas Prevenge definitely does for me.
Yeah, and it'll be one that I'll always say to people if they say, "Oh, have you seen 10 Cloverfield Lane?" I'll say, "Oh yeah, you should watch that." Definitely. But it's not one I'm going to be like, "Oh yeah, it's my favourite film," or it's one I watch a couple of times a year or anything like that. So yeah, 3 is a great place for it, but as we've said a million times, 3 is a recommendation. And I promise I'll stop giving 3 soon. Okay, so a bit of a shorter episode from reviews, so we thought we would go through the recently announced, well, it was last night as of recording, the BAFTA winners. Let's start with the big ones. So, best film, the nominees were La La Land, Arrival, I, Daniel Blake, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight. We're in the privileged position that we have seen... Oh, sorry, I've seen 4 of these, you've seen 3 of them. So
yeah, Moonlight is on our list to go and see. It's only just come out.
So, out of interest, just play a little game. If you had to pick out of those ones, which would be your film of the year? Out of the ones you've seen, obviously. Sorry to put you on the spot.
The one I enjoyed the most is probably Arrival. So I'd probably have to say that.
Cool.
But I can appreciate that both Manchester by the Sea and La La Land are amazing films in their own right and both trying to do something different and interesting. Obviously, La La Land is the most different and the most sort of courageous big move in, making a brand new musical, etc. And I haven't seen I, Daniel Blake. So
yeah. I think, well, if I spoke with my heart, it would be I, Daniel Blake. I think that's the film that's definitely stuck with me the most in the last, well, certainly out of this list. But my head, for what my prediction would have been, and is the winner, is La La Land, which I think is just going to sweep up everything. It's a proper Hollywood darling of a film. Yeah. People are going to love it. People will love that it's a throwback to the old musicals, as we said a million times during the review, and a pretty worthy winner. And to be honest, out of that list, I've seen 4 of them. I would have placed that my second behind that one. So yeah, pretty happy with that. The next category is one of these funny BAFTA categories, which is Outstanding British Film. I, Daniel Blake, American Honey, Denial, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Notes on Blindness, and Under the Shadow. Now, I've only seen one of these, so...
And I've only seen one, but it's a different one.
Well, yeah.
So I've seen Fantastic Beasts and you've seen I, Daniel Blake.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Notes on Blindness and American Honey and Under the Shadow. Not. Oh, Denial's the Holocaust Denial one with Rachel Weisz in it, isn't it? Yeah, not seen too much on that. So I, Daniel Blake won that category. We can't comment too much on that one.
I think that's deserved, though.
Yeah. And I don't think it's too long before that's out on DVD. I think it's the 27th of February, so look out for that one. Best Director. Nominees, Damien Chazelle for La La Land, Tom Ford for Nocturnal Animals, Ken Loach for I, Daniel Blake, Kenneth Lonergan for Manchester by the Sea, and Denis Villeneuve for Arrival. Now, it's interesting with the director category, because I think you take more into account than just how much you enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
I think how the film looks, how it plays out, is a big difference on that. So I'd be quite tempted to go for something different, even though I, Daniel Blake's definitely the film I enjoy the most. I'm not sure the direction in particular is massively worthy of awards. La La Land is doing some pretty spectacular stuff there, but just for a bit of a curveball, my choice would have been Denis Villeneuve for Arrival. I think it gave it a really, really nice feel to it, and I'm really excited about the projects he's doing next in the Blade Runner one, and he's now been announced for the new Dune film as well.
Yeah. But it's funny for me because I didn't love La La Land that much. I didn't feel that emotionally invested in it, and it wasn't massively my cup of tea. But So I can kind of see that maybe even though it wouldn't be my favourite film, I wouldn't ever give it favourite film, but obviously it was a huge project and it had a really definite look to it that was very, consistent. He had a vision and he followed that through. So I can see why he won Best Director.
Well, there we go. That's who won. I don't think we'd actually said it at that point. Okay, leading actress. Emma Stone for La La Land. Amy Adams for Arrival. Emily Blunt for Girl on the Train. Natalie Portman for Jackie. And Meryl Streep for Florence Foster Jenkins. The Jackie film is about Jackie Kennedy, not Jackie Stallone. But I love saying Jackie like that. So
we haven't seen Girl on the Train, Jackie, or Florence Foster Jenkins.
No, so that leaves us for a choice of two. The Natalie Portman performance in Jackie does look like it will be one that will be close to Oscar stuff from what I've seen of it. But
yeah, quite a character study and a very
emotional.
Embodying this person and
a
all
real
her
person,
mannerisms.
exactly. Someone who is so well known to the world. So the winner on that is Emma Stone for La La Land. Now, out of the two I've seen, I think I would have probably said that Amy Adams gave a better performance in Arrival.
I agree.
There's a lot more strings to the performance that Emma Stone's had to give with everything
singing
else.
And dancing. But
I completely can understand that. Okay, leading actor. Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea. Andrew Garfield for Hacksaw Ridge. Ryan Gosling, La La Land. Jake Gyllenhaal for Nocturnal Animals, and Viggo Mortensen for Captain Fantastic.
And we quite fancy seeing that Captain Fantastic, didn't we?
Yeah.
I quite like the look of it
from
the trailer.
I think we'll pick that up for a review soon.
Yeah.
Basically, we just missed it on the cinema when it came out. I think it was a bit before we started doing the reviews, / it might have been out the same week as something else.
Yeah.
So that's one I'm definitely intrigued by. We saw Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea, thought that was really good, and we saw Ryan Gosling in La La Land. We've not seen any of the other ones, so our choice is limited. Casey Affleck won for Manchester by the Sea. You understand that it's a role which I think he's the perfect actor for.
Yeah.
Whether it shows him having particularly good acting skills, I don't know, but I think he is the perfect person for that role, which really helped.
Yeah, and I think it's a refreshing character to have a lead role in a film, for a film to revolve around not a non-character, but an introvert isn't the right word either, but somebody who just doesn't want to be in the spotlight.
No.
They don't, they just want to be left alone and get on with it.
He's got issues.
Yeah, but not in a hilarious, hermity sort of way, in a sort of...
Like he's got deep-rooted personal and emotional issues. And it's interesting. It's a tough film to come out and do as well as it has, so I'm glad that it's getting the attention, and I think he played it perfectly. Yeah,
and I think that Ryan Gosling's performance was not perhaps on a par with Emma Stone's, more in terms of what was asked of his character, really, not so much in what he did with it, because he was much more of a sort of pretty laid back, average kind of guy, bit of a hey girl.
Yeah, and I liked
he's
Ryan
good
Gosling
at that,
in it,
but not revolutionary.
No, I think Casey Affleck did a better job there. So, supporting actress. Viola Davis for Fences, Naomi Harris, Moonlight, Nicole Kidman, Lion, Hayley Squires, Daniel Blake, Michelle Williams, Manchester by the Sea. Now, some of these categories are getting quite tough because there's a lot of films we haven't seen here. The winner for this one is Viola Davis in Fences. That's the new film it also stars Denzel Washington. I'm not even sure that's out here yet. If it is, it's out the next couple of weeks or so.
Yeah.
Looks like an interesting one. Moonlight as well, I think, is out next week. Lion is just one we haven't got round to seeing.
Yeah, and we were talking about Nicole Kidman the other day, weren't we, about how she plays a lot of sort of frosty ice queen characters, and it's hard to... I feel like I've seen the trailer for Lion about 10 times, but never actually seen the trailer. Never actually seen Lion itself. But yeah, I find it hard to see her as anything other than that kind of role now, which is, I suppose, not her fault. It's the films that she's been in the past, but... I obviously haven't seen Fences, so I can't comment on the Viola Davis performance, but I have to say Michelle Williams was incredible in Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah,
really amazing.
I agree. But special shout out from me to Hayley Squires and Daniel Blake, because that is a truly, truly heartbreaking performance. So if I picked, it would be her out of the ones I've seen in a heartbeat.
Okay, so lastly, the supporting actor category. So the nominations were Dev Patel for Lion, Mahershala Ali for Moonlight, Jeff Bridges from Hell or High Water, Hugh Grant from Florence Foster Jenkins, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson for Nocturnal Animals. So we haven't seen any of those, so It's pretty difficult to comment. But the one thing that just first popped into my mind when I saw Dev Patel for supporting actor was isn't he the lead actor in Lion? But actually, the kids, I suppose, are the lead actors. Is that how it goes in that? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, we've not seen it, but it is, from what I've heard, it is a film of two halves. So it's the...
So I guess they're both supporting actors.
Yeah, I assume with no constant actor throughout the whole thing, maybe everyone is just classed as a supporting actor, and that is probably... Sorry, that's probably how it is, but Dev Patel won that category, so well done you. There's loads of other categories which you can look up. We won't go through them all now because it'll just take forever.
And we don't know enough about them.
Don't know enough about them. And to be honest, it's also shown us that if we do an Oscar preview/review show, there's quite a lot more films that we'll need to catch up on. So if you guys have seen any of them and like them, I think we should definitely check some out ahead of the others, then let us know.
Yep. But also great that obviously for this podcast, we go to see the films that we want to go and see. So because we haven't got all the time and money in the world, we don't go and see films that we think look bad as much as it would be really good fun to review some terrible films and have a real good laugh. We do go and see ones that we think look good to begin with, and it's great that we have seen literally all of the best film category with the exception of the one that wasn't out yet and we are going to go and see. So hopefully that means we've got good taste.
Absolutely. Well, who knows? Great stuff. So a bit of a different episode this week.
Thanks for listening, and go and see Prevenge. I'm sure it's not going to have a massively long run, and it's not going to be on at...
Yeah, it's not on wide release. We had to go, not out of the way, but not to our absolute most local cinema to find it. But yeah, it's a smaller British film and a more limited release. But if it sounds like your type of thing, I think it's the right type of thing to go out there and support.
Yeah. If you love sightseers, definitely go and see it.
Great stuff. So the usual bit, you can follow us on Twitter at FNMPod. You can find us on Facebook if you search for Films Not Movies Podcast.
That's it. We're on YouTube as well if you don't fancy listening to a traditional podcast through podcasting services.
Yes, that's Films Not Movies Podcast as well. And as always, if you can leave a review on iTunes or even write a review, that would be great for us.
It would.
Excellent. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
See ya.